So welcome back everybody to another great episode of the MILPA show. Today we'll be hosting one particular mother that has her child that has been incarcerated in juvenile hall, right, in the midst of COVID-19 during this pandemic. And so we want to address this issue and bring to light how cruel this may be for our communities, specifically our familias that experience being impacted by the justice system or injustice system in some cases. And so to begin it off, I'm gonna be passing it down to Rosara to introduce the guest. And yeah, Rosara, if you don't mind tuning in.
Hola, gente. This is Rosaura Figueroa Mendoza, and I thank you so much, Arturo, for the welcome. And I want to introduce LV, who's the mother of a youth who was recently released from Juvenile Hall. And she was just very much constantly worried for his health because of COVID-19. And thank you so much for sharing your story. So with that, I introduce LV, and we're actually going to get into the gifts and baggages, and I'll pass it back to Arturo to start us off with that.
So yeah, so for everybody that's tuning in, you all pretty familiar with gifts and baggages from our prior episodes. So big gifts and baggages, once again, just a reminder is a baggage is something that's heavy within our shoulders, right? You just want to get rid of, you just lay it off, and you just be done with it. We don't want that in our lives no more. And instead, a gift is something that we want to share with others as a good news, as aspirations, or things that we are very excited about or happy about at the current moment. And so for myself, is to start off, I'm gonna start with the baggage and end high note, a good note. So it's the baggage is that sleep is just battling with sleep. There's a lot of things I want to do, so I'm always thinking about all that during at night, which I should be going to sleep, right, instead of thinking about all that. The good news is that I'm getting things done. There's a lot of good projects to come, a lot of good things that I have foresee in the future that I'm just cultivating and planting those seeds, and later on, I won't have to work as hard when it comes down to building the foundation that I want to do. And so that's my gifts and badges. I'm gonna go ahead and pass it to Rosaura.
Yes, gracias, Arturo. So, in terms of my gifts and baggages, and sometimes we say thorns and rose petals, my thorns today are just thinking about how I care so much about the work that I do, the movement work, challenging the system, but at the same time, it could take its toll on you emotionally, just because I, as a person, I care very much about the people I work with and the work that I do, that oftentimes it means that there is a significant emotional toll because this is hard work, right? And I think that LV will tell you a little bit more about that, and how when I mentioned the system, I just mentioned the system that impacts poor, Black, Indigenous, people of color, young people that often get caught up in the system. And so it can be very emotional. But at the same time, I would say my gift, I have a roof over my head, I have water, I have food. I'm very grateful to just have the opportunities that I have in terms of even the resources that I have, having a laptop and internet and phone. So these are things that a lot of people do not have. So with that, I want to pass it on to LV to give us the gifts and baggages.
Okay, well, I mean, there is a lot of things that were worrying me and of course had me, a bit depressed. But of course, where there's always a storm, there's a rainbow. And today I just felt better about the situation that I was going through. And thank God that the issue that I was going through has now resolved as of today. So, of course, I'm not feeling that depression, and I thank God for that. And I'm feeling happy, and of course, happy that I have you guys also like on my team. So that's a big thumbs up.
Cool. So con eso, we can get started with the questions. And the first thing I want to ask you is, and you already shared a little bit about this, but how are you doing today? And just in terms of the situation with your son, having been, I know that he was recently released, and I don't want to give a particular date, but just, how are you feeling in terms of that situation?
Obviously, I'm feeling way better because when he was in there, and when they were mentioning that, a lot of there was a lot of people that were incarcerated with the COVID-19, and that really worried me sick, especially because he has asthma and is more vulnerable, and it saddened me because he was just in there for a little violation, nothing big, and I was really fighting for him to get released and put on a bracelet, and for him not to catch that COVID, and he was really worried also because he mentioned that that kid inside there was coughing really bad, and all the kids in there would run up to the officers and tell them, they were expressing how they felt, they felt scared, and then all they said was, oh, we can't really do anything about it. Let's just, do the distancing, washing hands and cover mouths. But my son was really scared. And for me, knowing that I couldn't do anything, um, frightened me. Like I wouldn't really eat or sleep and thinking, oh my gosh, is he gonna catch it? Is he gonna, I was just really worried. But when I seen you guys on Facebook, I read the message, and I felt some relief. I felt better knowing that, you guys were his voice, and I felt like you guys were doing something to tell them and let them know, hey, they shouldn't be in there. It seemed like it was a death sentence. That's how I felt, and they definitely shouldn't have been there. They shouldn't be there for something small, or they should figure out other ways to take care of that. But definitely, I feel sad for the kids that are still in there and the mothers, and that are still worried, of course. And so yeah, so as of now, I'm feeling better.
It's very disheartening to see that even our own government, right, that is meant to protect us and serve us, is actually, putting us at greater risk. Even since the beginning, we're talking about imprisonment or even incarceration has been a faulty system, of its own. But including the pandemic on top of that, it very much goes to hiding the risk and hiding the what's the word, the lack of understanding of our own humane well-being, right? Like if they really cared for us, they wouldn't have, put us in a space where we are such vulnerable to really catch, something as severe as, the coronavirus. And so having that in mind, like, what was some of the precautions that they might have taken in the juvenile hall? I know you mentioned that some of the correctional officers were encouraged them to stay 6 feet away, but what other services were they, or what other measures were they taking in order to keep them safe? Was there anything in place, or were some things that they were doing that were not the best practices?
From what he told me is that yes, they were washing hands, they were wearing their masks, and um, what really frightened me is that that kid, knowing that he had that, they still had him there. They should have removed him right away, but they kept him there. And I was like, oh my gosh, I mean, and about them disinfecting, of course he's gonna go use the phone. Of course he's gonna be, he said that my son told me that he would, of course, go to the restroom and use the phone. Um, but about them disinfecting, I'm not sure if they did that or not. I didn't really ask, but I kept on telling my son, every time you go to the restroom, every time you use the phone, please go wash your hands. Go wash your hands. And he did it. He would do it because he was really frightened. And he was like, Mom, they don't care here. They really don't care. He said, I'm just a number here, pretty much. I mean, why don't they let us go? It's just all about the money. And yeah, so he was upset, and yeah, that's what frightened me, that they didn't remove him right away. I don't know why.
Can you speak a little bit more, LV, as to what you mean about it's all about the money? What does that mean for viewers that may not be aware or don't understand?
I really feel, Rosada, that if they really cared so much about, about the people in there, um, they should have let them go right away. But of course, how are they going to make money? They need people in there in order for them to, get their money. Imagine if nobody would go there, they wouldn't have a job. So I really feel like they didn't really care or did um how do you say, no hicieron lo suficiente to just let them go and say, you know what, just let them go, that's it. No, I really think it's all about the money. It's all about the money. They need people, they want money, and that's all it is. They're just a number. It's just a number. It's just a money maker, pretty much. Instead of building other things like recreation centers or other better things for them to be uh, busy with, they rather build more juvenile halls. For what? That's not gonna help them out. They need more counselors. They need more of those things to help them out. To help them out with the inside, not the outside. Internally, to help them out internally, mentally. That's what I think. But it's just all about the money. They don't care.
Definitely. I think also our communities have really been deprived of resources, right? When it comes down to like our own schools, we have schools resource officers, but we yet had to have mental health counselors or even nurses that are reliable. Even when I was growing up myself, we never really had an access to a good nurse, right? Always had other teachers that would fill in as a part of a nurse. So if we ever had something go down, we would have to call an ambulance or someone that would have to come later on, or. So we never had those resources within our schools, and especially within our communities, we have yet to be offered any of those resources at a good extent. So even now, we still battle with that. And I was wondering, what services might have been beneficial to your son to really keep him in a healthy, pattern of life. What would be some services that you think are crucial in order to have a healthy community? And yeah.
Definitely more like recreation centers, more counselors, more people that are involved, like help out the youth. Um, just programs to teach them how to work and how to, uh, uh, become an adult. And instead, they rather have juvenile halls. And what are they going to do? They're not going to do anything just except tell them, hey, you're bad. Like, for example, my son told me, he said that one of the officers would pick on him and tell him, you're coming back. You're gonna come back, and that's gonna be your life. Just putting him down. And so obviously that's not good. My son, he suffers some depression. He has to go to his counselors, and for somebody to tell him that, it's a downfall. So if there was more like counselors or programs out there to help him, mentally, to stabilize his mind, to give him the tools to be strong-minded, and there was more nurses and stuff like that to help him mentally, or programs that can help him, release that stress, and um, motivate them, and be positive instead of putting them down like the officer did. And he said that really upset him. And my son, everybody's different. My son is really sensitive. He's really sensitive, and like I said, he does have depression, anxiety, and stuff like that. So, of course, with that said, it got me worried because I was thinking, oh my gosh, hopefully my son doesn't put him, hopefully that doesn't put him down, and for him to actually be like, oh, you know what, the hell with it. This officer thinks like this of me, then I'm just gonna just screw it. Not everybody is strong-minded. Like my son, he's really weak-minded. really very vulnerable. And when he gets like that, he starts drinking. And what happens? He starts drinking, then he violates. Then he goes back to juvenile hall. And I really think if they had more programs out there with positive people and just to push you I think that would be a very, very positive outcome for the youth.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. I would say that, of course, your son has dominion over his decisions, and we all make poor choices. At the same time, there's the individual choices that we make, but we also have to examine the system that your son is living in, right? And
Yes.
as you're saying, there's not a lot of services that are in the community that can really help youth. And so they turn to what maybe is most at their grasp. And that might be drinking, that might be substances that are not the best for them, right? And so unfortunately, this is something that happened to your son, but in order to prevent other young people like your son, what's your message to other mothers and fathers that have their children in juvenile hall or just in general parents in the community?
What would be my can you repeat that again, Rosaura?
Sí, más que nada, what is your message? What if you can talk to all of the parents of in the area where your son lives, or just parents of whose children are in juvenile hall, what would you say to them? What words of encouragement or support would you say to them?
Just to keep on fighting, for them. The ones that are incarcerated, of course, show them that that we are their voice. You guys are their voice too. That they're not alone, and that to come together as a group, as a family, and to show them, hey, we need more things out there to help our kids, and just to voice our our messages to let them know, hey, this is not working out. This juvenile hall is not working out. We need more things out there, more productive things for the youth. And I think if we all get together, I think we can make a difference. I really do think so, and voice our opinion.
Yeah, and I really do appreciate you also being a voice también, porque a lot of times we stay silent, and I think that's when our oppressor just overrules us. So for us to really be holding the space and talking about these issues and seeing what's really happening within our communities, and we bring it to light, and we are able to address certain things, right? Like having our youth, in the juvenile hall during this time, during this pandemic, is very much again something that needs to be pointed out and adjusted, right? And not just adjusted, but as many say, abolished. You know what I mean? And so, I'm glad that we have these discussions and getting it going. Pero yeah, I want to say I appreciate tu esfuerzo, tu fuerza, the person that you are, and not giving up and not staying silent, right? For you actually to
Yes, definitely.
stay in the lucha as well. And that's my last comments. I really don't have any other questions. I just want to applaud you for again tu fuerzas, right? As a strong mother for your son.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, I echo what Arturo said. This is a final question. I would say, so in October, the city and the county budgets will reopen. So in the city of Salinas and in the county of Monterrey County, what do you feel the city and or the county should invest in? How should the budget be shaped, in your opinion, especially given in light of what you've been talking about in services for youth and whatnot? So if you can say a little bit more about what should the city invest in or what should the county invest in?
Definitely counselors, more like recreation centers, more something positive for them, more definitely more positive things, more, oh my gosh, I can't say that word. I can't, it just doesn't come out. Can you help me
It's
out, Rosalba? Like
It's
more.
okay. What word do you think about?
I'm sorry.
You're good.
Like more. It's not. It's not recreation centers, but um, how do you say that? Well, yeah, that's where like where they have like boxing and stuff like that. Is that like a recreation center, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But no, but there's let me see, there's something else. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, I would definitely have them invest in more recreation centers and more counselors to help the youth and to motivate them. And so yes.
Orale. And as I mentioned at the beginning, we always like to end on a call to action. So, what is your call to action? And keeping in mind, a call to action is okay, now that people have watched and listened to your story, what is your call to action to the young people? Any of the young people that are watching this, what is your call to action? What are you telling them to do now that they've watched this episode, and what should they do with their time? How should they move forward?
Well, I encourage them to just stay safe and stay off the streets because honestly, like, my son said, he really felt like he was just a number there. And it's all about the money. They don't really care about you. They don't. They don't. And just to look for something positive and to help them out because um once you go to jail, it's like a it's like a chain, like it just you won't stop. It won't stop for any little thing. You go to jail, and for any little violation, you go back. So it just keeps on going and going and going. And for them, it's better for them. And instead of having, like recreation centers or better things out there for the youth, um, they rather just lock you up. They rather just lock you up and see you like a number, and you're just pretty much, money to them. So they don't care about you. So I encourage for the kids to just stay focus in school and to get a job and just to do good things out there and not to get in trouble because honestly, the system is really bad. It's really bad, and they don't care about you. They don't. All they care is about the money. That's pretty much it. That's how I see it.
Thank you for sharing. And as you say, it's a vicious cycle. And we can break that cycle of violence.
Yes, like
that
yes.
happens. Unfortunately, a lot of the time it's the people that are caught up in this vicious cycle are poor, Black, Indigenous people of color, especially young people. And so they're especially vulnerable, as you said. And so with that, I just want to end it with thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being with us and telling your story. I hope that anybody listening today is going to understand that we can't just blame youth, right? A lot of times our youth, our young people, they're dealing with a lot of trauma. I know for myself, I dealt a lot with anxiety and depression when I was young. Thankfully, I had the support system to be able to cope, but I still had a hard time. And so I can only imagine young people that are going through their trauma and they don't have a support system, and how, again, those are the youth that are vulnerable and may be caught up. And so I just want to thank you for your time and your energy and just your gift of you telling your story and using your voice. And hopefully this episode can help anybody that's out there that is listening to get engaged. Talk to us, talk to Arturo and myself. We're happy to connect with you and guide you or direct you in any way if you have any questions. And so connect with us. So con eso, thank you so much, LV. And thank you all. Have a wonderful day. Cuídense.